Hello, this is the Edinburgh and South East Scotland City Regional Deal presentation for procurement opportunities. So what is a City Region Deal? Well, a City Regional Deal is a mechanism for accelerating growth by pulling in significant government investment. By investing this funding in innovation, skills and infrastructure, performance will be significantly improved and we will tackle inequality and deprivation. Every area of Scotland has now some form of deal in place. So the Edinburgh and South East Scotland Regional Deal covers the following areas: Edinburgh, Fife, Scottish Borders, West Lothian, Mid Lothian and East Lothian. That makes up 24% of the Scottish population. The 6 local authorities have also come together with regional universities, colleges and private sector for a total value of £1.3 billion of investment. Underpinning all of this is fair work and tackling inequalities. We want Scotland to be the best place to live, work, invest and do business in. And we see fair work as underpinning all of that for well-being and prosperity. Examples of fair work practice in the City Regional Deal include encouraging adoption of living wage, closing the gender gap in growth sectors, creating family-focused upskill programmes, and supporting fair work for small businesses with emergency grants, particularly through COVID. So let's look a little bit more at the investment portfolio of 1.3 billion. There are 5 main themes in the City Regional Deal. The total amount of capital investment is as follows. Research, development and innovation is 751 million. Housing is 313 million. Transport, 156 million, culture, 45 million, and integrated regional employability and skills is 25 million. I'm now going to go through each of these sections in more detail to discuss the procurement opportunities. Remember, there will be a panel at the end for you to ask questions more specifically on each section. Please also note that all of our opportunities are always advertised on Public Contract Scotland. So let's start with research, development and innovation at 751 million. There are 3 areas within this theme. We have the data-driven innovation. And under this, procurement opportunities include the Easterbush Campus DDI Architect Hub. That's a refurbishment project of an existing shell space for flexible office and meeting spaces. We anticipate the contract sum will be in the region of £2 million, and the tender is likely to be issued later this year or early 22. We have a research sample archive facility. This is a new build, low-tech, sustainable storage facility on campus to accommodate freezers holding archived samples. We anticipate the contract spend for this will be in the region of 1 million, with the tender likely to be issued late 22. We also have the Dryden shed relocation. This is a new build, agricultural animal sheds on campus. Anticipated contract sum in the region of 1.8 million, and the tender is likely to be issued mid-2022. Moving on, we have the Food and Drink Hub. If approved in June, we will be moving to design, procurement and a contractor in place for Q1 of 2022. The figure in terms of the estimated construction project for this is 26 million. Lastly, under this area, we have economic infrastructure investment. Fife I3 programme consists of a series of projects with a total value of 50 million. Tranche 2 of the programme will begin in April 2022 and will deliver 22 million of investment over 3 years across site servicing and construction projects in Dunfermline, Buckhaven, Kirkcaldy, Cowdenbeath and Dalgety Bay. Each project is procured individually to a similar specification. Finally, we have the Westway, which is due out to ground tender of our period May to July 21, so that will be going live quite soon. Moving on to housing and a £313 million investment. The housing consists of 7 strategic sites: Blindwells, Dunfermline, Edinburgh's waterfront, Tweedbank, Calderwood, Winchborough and Shawfair, and they are all at various stages of development. For example, Winchborough, Shawfair and Calderwood are on site in delivery phases already, while the others are at different phases of their business case, with Dunfermline the furthest advanced. Over the lifetime of the deal and beyond, there will be procurement of technical, consultant, design, build and various other construction-related opportunities. These opportunities will become available as business cases are developed for the remaining sites. Next, we have transport. This has an investment of £156 million. We first of all have the Bus Partnership Fund, and this is all subject to funding. This is a multidisciplinary consultancy support to deliver required outline business cases between 21 to 23. Procurement will include the project management consultancy support during minimum term of 21 to 22, specialist consultancy support to develop technology-based interventions from 21 to 22, potential multidisciplinary consultancy support to design bus priority quick win measures, again 21 to 22, and potential multi-consultancy disciplinary support to design a bus priority main capital package from 22 onwards. We also have the West Edinburgh. This is a potential multidisciplinary consultancy support to design a bus priority and active travel main capital package from 22 onwards, with construction contractors and site supervision of schemes civil works from 23 onwards. Again, this is quite a technical area and there will be a panel that you can ask questions around all of this. Moving on, we have the culture opportunity of 45 million for the new Dunard Centre, which will be a new music venue and also for performances. During pre-construction services, opportunities for subcontractors to provide special advice to the developing stage for design will be available. We still have timelines to be announced. Finally, we have the Integrated Regional and Employability Skills, the IRIS programme. This area is about tackling fair work and addressing inequalities and deprivation. Therefore, it has fewer procurement opportunities. However, we have used Public Contract Scotland to procure things like an integrated knowledge systems, which was completed in March 2021. We also have used Public Contract Scotland to procure an engagement community benefits portal, again completed in 2021. Most other costs under this budget are internal. When we do commission here, it tends to be for low grants using low value procurement. So to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what we do to address fair work and inequalities and support businesses, we're going to show you a little bit more about the integrated employer engagement theme. This is one of the elements under the IRIS programme, and its aim is to establish a no wrong door approach to improve employer relationships and to develop a community approach to community benefits from procurement. As part of this, we developed an integrated employer engagement fund. This was to award small businesses awards between £500 and £1,000 as part of a COVID response. As you can see in the table detailed, over the 6 areas, we had a number of applications and were able to make a number of awards ranging from £8,000 to £12,000. We're now going to show you a short video which will explain a little bit more about the fund and what was achieved.
The Integrated Employer Engagement team have been working with Business Gateway from the start of this health pandemic. From ongoing conversations, we identified that there was a gap and a great need for small business accessible grants within the micro-business community. As a result, the IEE Employer Fund was created, and in partnership with Business Gateway, we promoted this through various channels to businesses within Edinburgh, Lothians, Fife and the Borders, which makes up the Edinburgh South East Scotland City Region Deal area.
I'm Jimmy Hutchison, and along with Erica Douglas, we run Newborough Handloom Weavers.
I'm Maggie from the Rigg for Edinburgh charity, which is in East Lothian, with a focus on training and employability.
It's Michael Hooper, head brewer of Topard Brewery.
I've been weaving since about 1965. We produce a variety of cloth, quite a lot of tweed for male and female clothing and also for furnishings.
We initially started off Newborough Handloom Weavers more as a way of passing on Jimmy's skills on to me. I was really keen to learn as much as I could from him.
We have a heavy German influence in the beers that we make. We're just in the process of launching a Black Forest Gatto Stout, which we're brewing as we speak.
We have 2 community garden sites, a support team. We run various food initiatives within the community, and interestingly, we also have a fully CITB registered construction company.
Just on a normal even day before the pandemic, Jimmy and I would be in here full time.
Before the pandemic, we sold about 3/4 of our volume to pubs, mostly in and around Edinburgh.
Obviously, the global pandemic has affected us like so many other organisations up and down the country. Some of the impacts we could see coming, some took us by surprise.
We can't have people coming in to see us because our products are so tactile. It's so nice for people to come in and they can actually buy the products because they can see them, and then they're more likely to buy from us.
It would be out really visible within the community. It would be camping at a library, it would be in the community centre, or they'd be in our community gardens, and kind of in one fell swoop, that was gone.
The objective of the fund was to support small businesses to continue trading safely under new government guidelines, with a primary focus of making sure as many people as possible were able to keep their jobs and prevent job loss.
We were contacted by Business Gateway.
The application process itself was very straightforward, quick and easy.
We were delighted to find out about the grant that was going to allow us to buy some required hardware that we needed. Immediately had to move our support team from being out in the field to working online. So everything had to change. The devices that they were maybe using previously, maybe not up to scratch, they were using their own. And if we can't provide that service, not only is that a huge impact on our client base, but it means we're at risk of not being able to keep our staff in work.
The grant allowed us to purchase a large amount of branded merchandise. We used the grant directly for that, and that increased our profit in those direct sales. It contributed to keeping everybody in the business, in employment. We're all still here.
We were able to buy a laptop with that grant, which allowed us to run a lot of the business with that, all the website, all the social media and everything. We're using the laptop again, we've been able to build up our online shop, and that's allowed us to still sell our blankets and still have part of the story that we can share with people of what we do. There's only 2 of us that are weaving here, just myself and Jimmy. And Jimmy's been able to carry on weaving, and I can work from home, and therefore we're able to continue with the business until we're able to relax things again and get back to weaving together.
We've now administered the fund to 77 businesses, and feedback from those businesses has told us that having received the fund, it's enabled over 90 people to stay in employment.
As part of the integrated employer engagement, We also have a community benefits portal that is in development, which will run alongside all of the procurement we have discussed to date. This will give you an opportunity to understand what local communities want in terms of procurement and what benefits they would like to see coming from the deal. Thank you, and that ends our presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Q&A session for the Edinburgh South East Scotland City Region deal. I'm Graeme Rigg and I'm here to help moderate the session. I'd like to introduce the panel members. So first of all, if I can go to Andy, please.
Yep. Thanks, Graeme. I'm Andy Nichol. I'm Programme Manager for the overall Edinburgh South East Scotland City Region deal.
And also to Julia.
Hi, my name is Julia Laidlaw. I am the Senior Development Manager for Edinburgh University.
Great. And also Rona, who you've heard from already.
Hello everybody, I'm Rona Hunter from Capital City Partnership. We are an arm's length company of City of Edinburgh Council and we oversee a number of the projects within the integrated regional employability skills element that we talked about.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we see the questions coming up now, and I should say I don't know if we'll be able to answer them all right away, but we also have a virtual stand as well for City of Edinburgh Council, and also we will endeavour to read them all. So first of all, anyway, the one that's been voted up furthest, can we have the pipeline online anywhere? I'm not sure who would, if Andy would like to, or Andy or Rona would like to discuss that.
Right, I'll give it a go. I mean, I suppose it's difficult to put that anywhere given the number of different projects and the various different stages that they're at. What we do produce, we produce a progress report that goes to our joint committee, which we publish quarterly. That gives a good sort of status update as to where every project is at any given moment in time. But all the contracts will be let in the normal manner. I don't know, Rona, if you want to say anything more there.
I mean, again, and it must be a feel for the people watching this, because what you want is that sort of detail of it, but it's at 1.3 billion, it's such a large piece of work this over a number of years. So we release information as and when we can, because things keep changing, especially with the impact of COVID for building work. So again, the main thing to do is to track Public Contract Scotland for when the opportunities are coming up. But we can note that people have asked for that and see if the central procurement team have anything that can be passed on as part of this.
Okay, thank you. It's fair to say that also the City Region deal has a website which details all the major themes and the projects underneath them. And also there's continual updates with the joint committee of what business plans are being approved and then what procurement will be taking place. Going on to the second question about getting on City of Edinburgh Council framework. I think it's fair to say that we've had conversations with our procurement colleagues, and they have a stand all day covering issues like this. So I would certainly direct people to that stand to ask that question and find out more detail of getting onto frameworks. But I'm not sure if anyone else wants to say anything further to that.
Hi, I can add a little bit from the perspective of Edinburgh University on that. Most of our projects are procured either using the standard framework, so whether that's SCAPE or CCS frameworks and so forth, or there's the standard ODU public procurement portal that we use for procuring design teams and construction teams for our projects.
Okay, thank you, Julia. And I'll move on to the next one, which is, as a small company, 3 employees, is there opportunities to apply for very small sections of a contract? I think it's safe to say this, there are contracts of all sizes, but Rona?
I mean, and also it depends what your definition of a small contract is, but to give you an example of the area of work that I'm in charge of, which a lot is under the integrated regional employability and skills, We have procured contracts as small as £15,000-20,000, again through Public Contract Scotland. We have procured contracts for consultancy work, which are around about the £25,000-30,000 mark. We've also procured contracts, a lot of for design work, looking at portals being designed and built, website portals being designed around about that value as well. And also distributed a number of grants out for employability work that we want undertaken or skills training. So again, it comes back to how you define a small grant. I think it tends to be if you get below the 5,000 mark, then it's more like more difficult to do that. But anything about the 20-25,000, usually that's under Public Contract Scotland under a quick quote. So, and I know from other partners within the wider City Regional deal, there's a number of those opportunities going on.
Okay, thank you, Rona. Next question, how would I find out about opportunities for providing technical advisory services related to utilities? So quite a specific one. Diversary works, new connections. Do I have any thoughts about that? Yeah.
I could pick that one up from our perspective, and certainly delivering some of the infrastructure in and around the bioquota, for example. We work with either transportation consultants and so forth, but they tend to come through our civil engineer teams as part of that design process. So I think it's maybe keeping an eye on who the design teams are and whether there's opportunities for involvement through that route.
Thank you, Julia. So again, some of these are quite specific, like, you know, if an awarding authority is asking for 3 years accounts and you haven't been trading for 3 years, how would you get around this problem? Well, certainly from a City of Edinburgh Council point of view, it would certainly be our procurement colleagues on the virtual desk who are there all day who would answer a question like that. I don't know if there's an Edinburgh University
thing. Yes, our procurement department can answer questions along in that vein and give you some advice as to what to do if your company is relatively new.
And
There's one there, Graeme, that I could...
Yeah, if you spot one, that's great. Yeah, please chip in anyone who'd like to.
I mean, there's somebody there saying, are there any new initiatives or options in place to increase opportunities for SMEs? Just to highlight to whoever's on this today, the fund that we profiled at the end, the video that we did at the end of the recorded segment, that's our integrated employer fund. We're running that again in November because there was such a high demand for it. Now that is a separate from procurement. That's about us recognising that a number of SMEs, we know that you might be looking at your local business gateway for support, your local council for what grants are available. This is in addition to that, and we're looking at awarding around about £1,000 per small company for ways that can help you get your business back up and running, or to make sure that you can still trade or access opportunities. What we've found from consulting with SMEs is that they're finding the process is very difficult. The amount of paperwork, the amount of red tape. We've deliberately made this a very light touch and got very good feedback from SMEs about how quick the process was. So part of what I would say today is not just about the procurement side of it, and that's what we wanted to illustrate under City Regional Deal, was the additional value that we could bring to SMEs. So I would really keep a lookout for when that fund is going to open up again, because we were able to support over 77 small SMEs across the 6 regions, and we'd be looking to do so again.
Great, thank you, Rona. We've got another one here. As the ongoing housing projects, Winchborough, Shawfair, Calderwood, progress, is there a timeline for the business cases and release of the next stages for the design teams involved? Are these likely to be procurement, via the CEC framework or other means. Well, certainly in terms of business case timelines, I'd imagine Andy might like to say something on that. We've gone on mute.
Yeah, all of those strategic sites are at different stages of. Winchborough has been approved, just sort of building on Rona's presentation. On Friday there, the joint committee met and did approve a couple of the business cases, one of which Rona touched on, which was the food and drink, but also then the Dunfermline strategic housing site was approved on Friday as well. They will be procured via the individual constituent council who is leading on those projects. So for the Dunfermline strategic site, that'll be Fife that will lead that. For Winchborough, it's West Lothian. For Edinburgh's waterfront, it'll be City of Edinburgh Council and so on. So they are all at various stages, but the Dunfermline one, as I say, was just approved on Friday there by the joint committee.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Another one here, our company provides historical workshops for primary schools as well as reminiscent workshops for care homes. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we have reverted to virtual workshops and would like to see how we can progress our business to schools and care homes throughout Edinburgh. Well, I'm not sure if it's so much a city region deal one, but I don't know if anyone has any comment to make on that.
Yes, I can, and I apologise for any drilling noises you can hear. I'm based beside the trams, if you suddenly hear it. Procurement in action, as it were. For something like that, that doesn't sit so fully within the city regional deal. However, it might be a case, like I mentioned, that employer fund that we're launching. It sounds to me like that's something you might benefit from for that kind of work that you're doing about how you get into schools. You might also find the data-driven innovation, where what we're trying to do is go into schools around about data and how people can better understand their data. You might find that there's something within the Data Skills Lab have a fund that you can apply for each person to get £500 worth of support. You might find there's something within that model for what you're doing as well for getting into schools, and that might be worth you exploring. Again, if you go to the City Regional Deal website and look at the Integrated Regional Employability and Skills element and look at DDI, the contacts are there. I think that could be something for you to explore further.
Okay. That's helpful, Rona. Thank you. Just want to hear, how are partners engaging main contractors to engage smaller businesses and deal opportunities and aims? Not sure, Julia, if you'll have experience, I suppose, of that sort of tier one contracting and further down.
I think
Any
that's
thoughts?
more of an industry question than it is for the client. At the end of the day, our ability to influence their supply chain is limited. And really, when we buy into that tender process, there's an understanding that they encompass all, but our ability to actually influence that is fairly limited.
Thank you.
Yeah, could I just come in here? What one was that specifically again, just so I can read it?
There was one, how it was anonymous 1111. How are partners engaging with main contractors to engage smaller businesses?
Just to say on sorry, I can't see it on the question side of it. Just to say one of the things that we have done recently was we engaged with all the chambers across the 6 regions and did an event to outline what we're doing and a way to see how better we can support members of the chambers of commerce across the 6 regions. We're also doing engagement through what we call the third sector interface, because we know that a lot of the SMEs might be not-for-profit or social enterprises. So again, we're using the infrastructures that are there. We've used Business Gateway, again, it's a way and a model to get the messages over. So if you're a member of a body or a grouping and you don't see them engaging, or you'd like to know more about City Regional Deal and the wider thing, we can come along and do additional events through that route, and maybe that will get you that more relationship buy-in as well.
Okay, thank you. We've got one here. How are partner councils working together on procurement for the deal? What have main benefits or challenges to this been? And do you think this will improve routes to market, access public sector business? I'm not sure if anyone has any thoughts on that here, joint up approach. Thank you.
I can do on that. We commissioned our intensive family service across the 6 regions, and we brought together all 6 councils for a procurement approach on that. The thing about local authorities are pretty consistent on their procurement approaches. I think what's more interesting is when you do it across wider stakeholders involving universities and colleges as well, and it's to get that consistency around your approaches and your fair work side of it. Because they'll use Public Contract Scotland, that gives you a sort of standardisation to it. So what we're looking at that's been more interesting, I think, is the development of community benefits around procurement. And that's why we have commissioned what we're calling our community benefits portal. And that's when we're going to go out and work with local communities to grow the ideas from the grassroots up as to what they would like to see from a community benefits clause within procurement, and getting more best value out of that. And that's where we've seen the local authorities coming together and being interested in, because it's a very new area that we can actually develop further. So that I see has been one of the main benefits that we've had from this, is actually to say, we've got all of this spend going on, all of these opportunities. How can we use this to also make a difference to people's lives? How can we use it to tackle poverty and tackle fair work as well, and enhance things for the businesses and the local communities? So the procurement itself, because it's such a regulated, legal, consistent approach, there's not been massive differences within that. But for me, it's been more about the community benefit side of it, has brought together a collective thinking that I think can do a lot more in the longer term.
Thank you, Rona. Andy?
Yeah, thanks, Graeme. Thanks, Rona. Yeah, just building upon that, I think as well, in terms of sort of the direction of government policy in terms of community, well, procurement's our sort of big tool in that regard. And in terms of sort of anchor institutions for driving community wealth building, the holy trinity would probably be your local authorities, your HEFE sector, and the NHS in any particular locale. And given that sort of 2 of those 3 components are deal signatories in terms of the local authority, the 6 local authorities in the city region, and all of the HEFE sector as a regional consortium, we've got some of the component parts there to really make a difference.
Thank you. It's maybe worth saying, in a recent meeting, there's discussion on the 7 strategic sites, and even though they are separate procurements, there's a lot of learning going on between them. So each area is learning from another in terms of placemaking, and in terms of also how it's being contracted. Right, we've got a question here. It names a few companies, and it says these companies are on Scape Scotland Consultancy for Infrastructure. So I imagine this is the University of Edinburgh. We are ready to offer a wide range of consultancy services and are committed to involving locally based SMEs to deliver 30% of the framework. We'd be pleased to discuss future opportunities with the deal team and their partners. I suppose it's a question about existing frameworks and future procurement. Any thoughts about that? Yeah, thank you, Julie.
I think this is relevant to a previous statement from somebody with regard to sort of diversionary expertise, that sort of thing. I think it's fair that some of the infrastructure projects that are being delivered as part of the city deal are employing consultants named there, and that is the route to any of that expertise that you're able to bring to the table. There are some significant infrastructure projects as part of the city deal that would value anybody's input.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Another question here, one for Rona. Which regions do SMEs need to be in to benefit from when the fund opens again? Are there any support? Is there any support available for SMEs, like through SDP, or maybe partly for you?
If you're talking about the specific employer fund, the regions you have to be in is one of the 6 regions under the City Regional Deal. So that is Edinburgh, Fife, West Lothian, Mid Lothian, East Lothian, or Scottish Borders. So you have to be in there. We're looking at micro businesses alongside SMEs to support for that as well. And we're doing it through Business Gateway and also trying to involve the Chamber in it. So again, we're not just waiting for employers to find us. We're looking at ways that you probably are already engaged with these mechanisms and these partners, and we're building on that.
Okay, thank you. Question that's been voted up is a very much I feel it's a strong procurement question, as you might expect, but it's quite specifically procurement. What are the chances of a new company winning a tender in Scotland? I suppose it comes down, obviously fair scoring takes place always, but is there any thoughts on that? I'm not sure if people have experience, Julia, on that sort of scoring process.
I think it's all down to how that scoring process is balanced. Sometimes there's a cost quality question around it, and previous experience clearly comes into that. But that's not always the case, and sometimes it's cost alone, and that's an opportunity there. So I would suggest just keeping your eye on the various portals, and it's about ensuring a presence and trying to get onto some of those other public frameworks, not necessarily dedicated City of Edinburgh Council ones, but the wider public ones. But it's just keeping an eye on that pipeline, because not everything has that quality balance.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to read down the questions to find anything that hasn't been answered. Okay. If anyone spots anything, jump in, thanks.
Yeah, Graeme, I mean, maybe one thing that's worth mentioning as well is that we're sort of the regional partners are trying to actively build upon the City Region deal and build beyond that. And we have developed a draft regional prosperity framework, which builds upon that sort of regional collaboration of the deal and the sort of successful delivery of cross-regional projects that we've had to date. But also through that, we're going to be seeking to embark on a new relationship between the regional partners, UK, Scottish governments, the national agencies, etc., with a view to sort of aligning strategy, investment, and funding to sort of drive that continued prosperity and across this city region. So that consultation draft will go out on Monday for a period of consultation. And that's been overseen by a sort of our boards, which does include the Federation of Small Businesses as well. The Chamber of Commerce also sit on on our Regional Enterprise Council. So, engaging through them as well and helping to shape that going forward will, protect any interests that you might have on the role of SMEs and what a key part of our future economic framework for the city region going forward.
Thank you, Andy. I'm just wondering, Rona, you mentioned the community benefits portal, and I suppose the idea of that is to help communities get appropriate benefits that would help them, but also help give guidance to actual suppliers.
Absolutely.
Is there anything more to say on that?
I think it's something that we have seen over the years when you say to a supplier, could you tell us what you could contribute as a community benefit? And it can be a struggle to come up with, well, what would that be? And the stereotype is you'll sponsor a local football team to have football strips, for example, in schools. Or you might, buy 25 basketballs or something, which is great, and it's not to diminish that. But what we want to do is be a little bit more proactive and say to anybody bidding in, this is actually what these communities have said that they would like. This is their voice has been heard and they've shaped it. And also the asks will be relevant to what the tender opportunities are. And it's also giving a scale to that. So a small SME might be able to provide, like if you're a business person running an SME, trust me on this, the value that you can give to going and talking in a school for one afternoon to pupils who are doing enterprise work on what your journey was to setting up your own business and running it is huge, absolutely huge, because they're hearing directly from you as a person. So that as an offer and a community benefit has got a value, for example. Or you could be a very large scale bidder going in for something that's millions of pounds, where you could be offering work experience, you could be offering internships, for example, or you could be offering to build something that the local community said is a gap for them. So what we want to do through community benefit portals is make it more meaningful and worthwhile, that you're not just coming up with something for the sake of it. It actually has got, and I've kind of said it's almost like, and I know nothing about this because I'm of an age when I'm beyond this sort of stuff, but it's like a community benefits Tinder type thing, where you're matching people through. So someone's saying, this is what I'd like to offer, and someone's saying, this is what we need, therefore you've got a match to it. Or if you're somebody about to bid in, you could look at that list and say, do you know what, I never thought of what they're suggesting, but I actually do that. That's something that we could give. So it just adds meaning to it so that everybody gets something from the opportunity. And it's something that we really value, want to see going forward.
Thank you, that's really helpful. Right, another one that's come up, are there green carbon reduction ambitions required as part of the deal? And is there an approach to that? So I see Rona putting up a hand, and also there's maybe something on regional prosperity framework as well from Andy.
Well, it's just to say on that side of it, we've got Skills Development Scotland are undertaking a piece of work for us just now across the whole for the City Regional Deal to better understand what green jobs are and that terminology and what impacts we can make on it. That work is being procured for consultancy and will be ready with us hopefully by October, November for us to start to look in. So yes, there will be, but we also want to understand that area better. But maybe somebody else could come in on the prosperity side.
Yeah, thanks, Rona. I mean, I suppose taking a step back, I mean, in terms of our city region deal itself, it's, driving inclusive growth was the driving force within that rather than the climate emergency, and that's just it being a product of the time at which it was signed. But obviously, given the climate emergency, we are trying to do what we can there. Scottish Government are too. They have engaged a sustainable development manager who's looking at the impact of all of projects across city region and growth deals. But as I say, for us, we're quickly on the city region deal to this regional prosperity framework, and within that sustainable development and addressing net zero ambitions is central to that. So there's that's a very strong driver as how we want the regional economy to operate going forward.
Thank you. Conscious
Graeme,
of time.
Julia had her
I was
hand.
just going to pick up from the project delivery perspective that the individual projects coming forward are responding directly to that low/zero carbon initiative. And from a university perspective, certainly we've got very stringent criteria. The Scottish regulations are already stringent, but we have additional ones on top of that with a view to drive down the carbon within our buildings embedded and in use.
Thank you. Thank you all. Couple of quick questions in limited time we've got. Someone saying that they have a product to save councils money. I would imagine they refer you to the council's procurement stand to speak to our colleagues there and let people have a comment to make. And also a question on foreign companies' eligibility to get contracts. Again, I would refer you to that stand and let people have any comment to make on that. That's fine. And don't know if anyone can spot a question that hasn't been answered.
The only thing that I would say, because we've only got like 20 seconds left, Graeme, is again, and I know it sounds very obvious, but make sure that you're registered on Public Contract Scotland and make sure that you're clicking through for all the alerts, because that's where you're going to get all the up-to-date information.
That sounds really good advice. So thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for people who viewed. Thank you.